Good morning and a warm welcome to KBC News Check, the day being the Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. My name is Bentro Njue, and my co-anchor on the right of your screen will be Susan Thuku. Apologies for that. And for the next 2 hours or so, we'll be looking at the state of governance in the country and a number of things that have been happening here in the country in the last couple of days. Of course, on the lips of many Kenyans is the UDA-ODM pact that was signed by President William Ruto and also the former Premier Raila Odinga last week. We'll be delving into that, but allow me to very quickly just point out some of the news items that we are following up for you on this day. President William Ruto continues his week-long tour of the capital, Nairobi, and today he will be touring projects in Mathare, but I will be telling you exactly where the president will be going, and thank you indeed so much, my director Zippy, for that. He will be having a developmental tour in Nairobi County, where he's expected to launch a housing project, TVETs, in Mathare constituency, and also there will be groundbreaking for the construction of TVET College Mathare constituency, the launch of last mile electricity connectivity project still in Mathare constituency. There will also be inspection of the Mathare modern gateway market in Ruaraka. There will also be the launch of the construction of classrooms at TJ Kajwang Mathare North Secondary School in Ruaraka, commissioning of the Deputy County Commissioner's Office in Mathare North, Ruaraka constituency, and all that will culminate to a public rally at Car Wash on Thika Road, Roysambu constituency. That is the president itinerary today, and my colleague Abdiaziz Hashim is on that beat. Away from that, we also, the 2025 budget policy statement, I will tell you for a fact is that the members of parliament are very, very busy, and especially now that we have new members, new committee chairs, and also we are also headed toward the 2025-2026 budget, and for the first time, if anything is to go by, to be a 4.2 trillion, the first time the budget has hit those numbers. Today also, the Finance Committee is meeting the National Treasury CS John Mbadi, and also we have a sustainable agricultural productivity event where Caro meets stakeholders on fertilizer standards. The rains are here with us and the planting season is here. And also, you can weigh in on some of the things that we'll be discussing here. And before I introduce my guest, our viewpoint quiz or question will be your views on the UDA-ODM pact. What are your views on the UDA-ODM pact in the broad-based government arrangement? What are your views on the UDA-ODM pact? Remember, we are live on all our social media spaces. We are at X at KBC Channel 1, Facebook at KBC Channel 1 TV, and also on YouTube, KBC Channel 1. Remember, we also have a very beautiful digital app, the KBC digital app, which will keep you updated on all the latest happening and also watch videos as well. Very well. As you weigh in on our conversation, allow me to introduce my panel of experts today. Beginning from my immediate left, we have Oscar Omondi. Oscar Omondi is a political analyst and also a university lecturer. Good morning, Oscar.
Good morning, Joey. It's happy to be here with you. It's long since I had you in a shot last time.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
And just next to Oscar, we have Dr. Gertrude Musuruve. Dr. Gertrude is a long-time friend and also has former nominated senator. Karibu sana, Senator.
Thank you, Njue, and for giving me the platform to come and have a conversation before Kenyans.
It's been a while. Where have you been?
Thank you. At the moment, I'm a lecturer at Jomo Kenyatta University. And I've just been doing my work as a lecturer, as a patriot, and also doing my research, especially doing research with master's students and PhD students on various issues, even issues affecting the country, global issues, and all that. So I want to say that I have not just been sitting idle and I'm building the nation, but in the world of academia.
Yeah, and you put politics aside?
No. I'm not saying, you see, once a leader, you'll always be a leader. And you cannot play the ostrich and assume that you're not a leader, you don't know what is happening. So really, when you've been a leader, you are a leader everywhere. And people look at you. Even when you go to class, people look at you as their lecturer, yes, but they know there's the leadership aspect in you. So they look at you as a mentor, to them.
All right, very quickly to the questions now. You are a former nominated senator under ODM.
Yes.
What is your view? That's actually our viewpoint question. Let's be the first one to answer that. What is your view on the UDA-ODM pact that was signed by President Ruto and Raila Odinga last week?
One thing I want to say on Jue, and thank you very much for asking me about my view. One, I look at my view from a scholarly perspective, from a researcher's perspective, and also from a Kenyan who is really concerned about having a united Kenya. I want to say that the best thing that has actually happened at this moment in time is the President, Dr. Ruto, reaching out also to engineer Baba Raila Amolo Odinga and having a conversation concerning our country. And I want to say that that is the best thing that has actually happened for us in Kenya. Now remember, we are coming from a point where there has been a lot of instability, so many skirmishes have been there, and when it comes to even the economy, people have not been stable in running their daily shows. You remember there have been ups and downs from GNCs, and Kenyans have really not been at peace. And I want to say that when these two people come together, my thinking from a scholarly perspective and a researcher, it is a win-win situation for all of us. Now remember, Njua, we are coming from a point where this Baba is really like an institution, you know, and we cannot lie about it, because for very many years he has had very many followers, and apart from that, he has fought very many battles, especially for the good of the common man. And he has selflessly given himself so that really he can suffer because of people, and he didn't mind even going to jail. By the way, he was bold, and he didn't care as long as democratic values were adhered to. And I want to say...
All right, and we will be getting to actually his checkered career, but a lot of Kenyans have felt maybe they were betrayed in regards to that. But we will be talking about that. Let me just sample what Omondi has to say in regards to the broad-based arrangement.
You see, if we historically check at why did we end up with the broad-based arrangement, it's coming from the Gen Z revolution last year, which ended up in people occupying parliament, and we had deaths. You had these 50 people being shot in the streets of Nairobi, and now the government needed stability. We needed a political stability. So the broad-based government, to me, is like a shock absorber, because at the end of the day, where would we have ended up with those revolutions? We didn't even have an IBC. We didn't even have anything. We didn't have the laws to take us to the next level, because when they went and legally said that they were going for, is it Article 1 of the Constitution, that you are either represented by the people, by your elected leaders, or you can represent yourselves. So these people went and claimed that they were going to represent themselves. But you see, the law did not see it. What's next? So we could have ended up with a mongrel of something else. And the shock absorber for political stability was we have an arrangement. No matter how bad it is, no matter how safe it is, no matter how loving and how interesting it might be, but that is what we have. And that arrangement helped to build political stability that we dearly needed. Because even for us to get the economic stability in a country, we need, first of all, the political, the social cohesion, so that we're able to use the streets peacefully. We're able to walk from home to the station like this one. We're able to be at, not really peaceful, but even if it is negative peace, even if there's frustration, but at least things are moving, trade is going on. So the broad-based arrangement came as a shock absorber to the political system. You know very well that when it was being organized, the people were saying betrayed and what have you. Kalonzo Musyoka has been on record saying that Raila Odinga betrayed. You remember when the organization of the broad-based arrangement was started, actually Kalonzo Musyoka was invited and Eugene Wamalwa was invited. They had a meeting at Jaramogi Odinga Foundation, I think, and there was some skirmishes between Raila and Kalonzo, if you can remember that time. It is because he was being influenced to join this arrangement so that it comes. They didn't want to have like the broad-based arrangement. They wanted to have something like government of national unity, which we've had before. But again, you remember that when governments get into power and they lack legitimacy, when the elections are not conclusive, we'll always end up with something like this. Because if you have somebody in the winner-takes-it-all situation, where Raila Odinga got beat 6.9 million votes and William Ruto got 7 million votes. You see, in that situation, power, half of the nation is not in power or is not in participating in governance. Everybody should be seen to be participating in governance.
But Omondi, in many countries, we have the opposition, or in our case, we also have the minority side. If at all this arrangement, after every election, we decide that we will be bringing in the runners-up.
I've told you, if it is not done,
oversight.
If it is not done conclusively, if a bigger bunch of society feels that the elections were not free and fair, they will go into, we want servers opened, we want NADCO up. You know, there's always a trend that is continuing, and it always has to be there. And now, in this situation, even now, we are no longer at ease. Reason being the frustration you saw when Raila went to Kisii. Yesterday you saw what was happening in Isli. The problem is that the frustration of these young people because of the crisis of living. You know, the NADCO report was put in place to go and deal with the crisis of living. Did it deal with that?
All right. Actually, I wanted, first of all, to just sample your views before we get deeper into that. But allow me to just point out the 10-point agenda that President William Ruto and Raila Odinga signed at the KICC on Friday. The first is the full implementation of the NADCO report. The second being inclusivity in budget allocation in public appointments. Number 3 being protection and strengthening of devolution. Number 4 being economic investment in the youths. Number 5 being leadership, integrity, and end of opulence. Number 6 being right to peaceful assembly, compensation of all pending claims of rights victims. Number 7, audit of the national debt and how it has been used. Number 8, fight corruption. Number 9, stop wastage of public resources. Number 10, protect sovereignty of the people, stop abductions, respect constitution and rule of law. And most importantly, especially touching on the media, respect to press freedom. Those are the 10-point agenda. And I want to bring in Senator. In as much as we are clapping for the broad-based government, all these 10 points are enshrined in the Constitution. Why don't we just follow the Constitution? And all these things will fall into place. Things like economic investment, leadership, integrity, and end to opulence. That is chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Now, I want to tell you, Njue, first of all, when you're talking about the NADCO report, it has to be very clear that the NADCO report was a conversation to help in healing or, averting the terrible situations that have been, in our country. And I want to say that when it comes to the NADCO report, it took a lot of issues into consideration. First of all, when it comes to the issues ailing our country, and this we cannot run away from it, because all these things we see, all the skirmishes we see and all that is usually a sign and symptom of something that has not been addressed. And I want to tell you for sure, Njue, without any fear or contradiction, is that the main issue that ails Kenya is in the political scene, where the winner has it all. That is where the issue is. Because when the winner has it all, then what happens? Article 1.1 of the Constitution is not adhered to. Because when Article 1.1 of the Constitution is not adhered to, then...
Just a minute, Senator, I was also look at the microphone. On your screen is actually the UDA-ODM part in the implementation of the NADCO report. The Office of the Leader of the Official Opposition and 2 deputies, and Office of the Prime Minister and the observance of the 2/3 gender rule. Let's be very, very honest and very, very clear, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. It will be very hard to implement some of these things. A very practical example is the 2/3 gender rule. When Maraga was Chief Justice, that was the other, between the 2017 and 2022 government. And he pointed out and even gave an advisory that we should dissolve Parliament because we cannot achieve 2/3 gender rule. But unfortunately, when it came to the 2022 general election, Parliament still does not have the 2/3 gender rule observance. How are we supposed to deal with some of the things? Because the essence and the first is the full implementation of the NADCO report, as you say.
So I'm still insisting on the winner takes it all. Now, the NADCO report is going to address some of these issues because when you look at the NADCO report, it is looking at the issue of representation so that when it comes to issues of leadership and governance, the face of Kenya is seen. Because when we have the winner takes it all, the face of Kenya is not seen. So that Kenyans are not represented in the executive, Kenyans are not represented in parliament, Kenyans are not represented even in county assemblies. The face of Kenya has to be seen. And that is why we're saying that when the NADCO report is actually accepted and implemented, it is going to heal some of these issues that actually ailing our country. And I want to say it candidly, that when it comes to an election, remember all leaders are followers. So don't cut me short. I just want to bring out a point that is very strong. That even when it comes to elections, yes, there has to be a winner. But remember, even a loser has very many followers, and we cannot wish them away. They're part of Kenyans, and they need to be represented. And therefore, what I'm saying right now is that the NADCO report will come into some of these issues. Because when these offices are established, like the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the official leader of the opposition,
actually, it means of the Prime Minister, not Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Yes, sorry for this. So it means that the best loser will now be the official opposition leader. And when it's the official opposition leader, remember this person also has very many followers. And therefore it means that when the NADCO report comes in, there's going to be a conversation so that instead of people being confrontational, instead of people going to the streets, they will sort out the issue, they'll sort out the issues, and in sorting out the issues, then issues will be sorted out in Parliament. Remember, even when Kenyans go on the street, the issues cannot be solved. Issues are solved, legislatively. And they're solved legislatively in the National Assembly, where the Senate and also the National Assembly speak on the issues of Mwananchi. And therefore, when it comes to representation, Mwananchi can only be represented in their house. Even when people go on the streets, they cannot be represented. And when it comes also at county level, there are also legislative, mechanisms of ensuring that people's issues on the ground are actually addressed. So I want to say that going to the streets will not help Kenyans, but being represented in the house where laws are made and they take the day will help Kenyans a lot. And that way, the face of Kenya can also be represented. Now, remember also, even before we talk about the NADCO report, remember in 2007, the skirmishes that were there, they were hot all over. Everywhere they were hot. But what happened? Kofi Annan had to come and broker that and began a conversation. So what we're saying in the NADCO report will not need Kofi Annan to come here and resolve our issues. May his soul rest in peace. We can solve our issues as Kenyans.
All right. All right.
Conversation.
All right. Omonde, I'm looking at these 10 issues, and a lot of them, I'm quite sure we can sort them out. And talking about the full implementation of the NADCO report, of course, it had mixed reaction. It's not something that was every Kenyan agreed to. Yes. And the full implementation of the NADCO report and the position of Prime Minister, that will require a referendum. A referendum, yes. We know very well what is happening to the IEBC. Yes. The country is not ready, or is it?
It's not ready yet. What happens is that it is actually on when Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president, signed a handshake with Raila Odinga. They had a 9-point agenda of the BBI, remember it. And the BBI, for it to be implemented, it was going to restructure it was going to interfere or change the structure of the Constitution. According to our laws, if you want to make a change that changes the structure of the Constitution, there must be a referendum. Whatever is in the NADCO report is not any different from whatever was in the BBI. The 10-point agenda that Raila Odinga signed with William Ruto is not very different from the 9-point agenda Raila Odinga signed with former president. You get me right? So we normally move 2 steps ahead, then 3 steps back. So you know what happened to the BBI. The county assemblies went, because it had to go to all the county assemblies, and we passed at the county assemblies. We got to
in a nutshell, it was shut down by the courts.
It was shut down by the courts, but at the tail end of it, you get me right? This process, we still have to go back to the BBI. And there's no way we can have this NADCO report, the 10-point agenda, if we don't use the same process that we had the BBI. Actually, the BBI was overhauling the Constitution because the Constitution had issues, because we've had the Constitution for 12 years or something like this. And of those 12 years, we've been able to see the challenges that we've had with it. For example, it's not cast in stone. You know very well that there's even a proposal to change the number of days, because we only have 7 days after election for the Supreme Court to listen and decide who's going to be the next president, for example. And a lot of issues that were supposed to be tackled by the BBI. There's no difference between BBI and NADCO and the 10 points agenda. Same script, same things. But it was shot by the court at the 11th hour due to flimsy issues or whatever issues. The court said no. We will always have these ones. Even the new constitution, for us to promulgate this one in 2010, it didn't start just in 2010. It started many years. The mandamanos that we had, the sabasabas, change katiba, you know, we had all these when Raila Odinga and the rest were still, and Martin Shikuku and the rest were going to Kamkunji, the 7th of, you know, and many people died. It was a long process. Then we had the Ayash Palgai process. Then we had the Wako draft, which was shut down. Then later we had the Naivasha Accord. Then we had the new constitution and Kibaki coming in. And when Kibaki comes in, there's an MOU until we got now, in 2005, we got the new constitution, 2010, the 2010 constitution. So it's a process. So this process has been going on for the last almost 7 years now. The building bridges, NADCO, 10-point agenda, same story. Thirdly, you know very well that if we always miss because of our own militias, we always worried. Like now, if we create the opposition, the opposition leader position, so long as we have somebody in mind that is being created for Raila Odinga, for example, we will never get there. You get me right? Even
and actually, talking about the NADCO report, there is the office of the official opposition, and there's also the office of the Prime Minister.
Yes.
If at all we decide to follow this,
Yes.
we'll be going against the Constitution, just like the Prime Cabinet
It will
Secretary
change the
position.
structure. It will change the structure of
The courts, if you remember in the BBI, they talked about the basic structure doctrine, where if you're told you're going to touch the tenets, the pillars of the Constitution,
Yes.
you have to go back to Wanjiku.
Now,
That's
just
what I'm
a small
telling you.
interruption,
Yes.
kindly. Just a small interruption, kindly. Sometimes it is always good to really look at the Constitution, what it really says about these issues.
Yes.
When let me just read something small. Article 1(2) of the Constitution, the national values and principles of governance include, we have patriotism, we have national unity, which is very important, and it is the core anchor of, Baba Raila Amolo Odinga and the president meeting for the sake of national unity. Then we have sharing and devolution of power, which cannot be wished away. This is in the Constitution, yeah? And then the rule of law, we have democracy and participation of the people, which is also in the NADCO report. The people need to be involved in whatever decision making. Then we have the issues of social justice, still in the constitution, issues of inclusiveness, issues of equality, issues of human rights, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. This is actually in the constitution. So really what I'm saying is that even when we talk about issues of the constitution, we must really look at the key issues that are there, because this is the constitution that is talking about issues of inclusivity, issues of powers of sharing, issues of even addressing the marginalized. And when you're talking about marginalized, we're talking about also communities that are far-flung, you know, that cannot really be reached easily. We're also bringing in issues of disability that has been spoken for, has been spoken to in the Constitution. So really, when you're talking about issues of Constitution, let us back by quotations from the Constitution.
It's a good thing that you mentioned the Constitution, because to be honest, Senator, we do not have some of the positions that we are talking about. And just like Omondi has talked about, if at all we get to the to the referendum and decide, yes, we need a prime minister's position, we do know who that position is going to.
No.
Is that inclusivity?
So really what you're saying...
Don't we? Yeah? Omonde, just answer this. Who do you think would be the prime minister of the country? I'll give you some hints.
Currently.
On Friday,
Yes.
the president called the former prime minister, a record 3 times.
Yes.
And the implementation of the NADCO report also requires, by the way, full implementation, not part implementation. It will require us to go to the referendum. And of course, we have the office of the Prime Minister.
Yes.
What do you think?
For avoidance of doubt,
Yes.
I've told you that when we have an election and people don't see as if it's been done properly and somebody's victory has been stolen, so we normally come back and try to patch up. What do we do with him? Do we make him the Prime Minister? Do we do this with him? Do we send him to the AUC? What do we do with him? Every regime since Kibaki, you know the MOU between Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki was that Raila Odinga, after Kibaki has won, will create a system and will bring him in as a prime minister, which was never seen. After 2 years, they abandoned that MOU, right, Mwai Kibaki. And now when we go to 2007, we go to post-election violence. Then 1,300 people die in that post-election violence. Now again, we have a grand coalition, and he's made the prime minister. Now he's made the prime minister. Now after that again, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto takes over power in 2013. And when they take over power, I think they ran it well in the first term. But the second term, what do we do again? Maraga says that this election was not done properly and nullifies the election. Raila refuses to go for a re-election after that. And then now we have a BBI, which is going to create a position of a prime minister with intention that probably we accommodate him there. You get me right? Again now, what you're saying that if the 10 points agenda and we bring the NADCO report, again, we want a situation of accommodating Raila Odinga. You get me right?
Yes.
So it's been a problem on how the political system accommodates Raila Odinga. If you don't accommodate Raila Odinga, then you are, it becomes a problem. It's only that the bigger population that elects him.
To some extent, it's like he's holding the country hostage then.
The truth of the matter is, anytime we have a botched election, we will also, there'll be another Raila. Even after this Raila, there'll be another Raila in case somebody will come and win. And I'm saying big crowds in Kitengela for Gachagua. That is the Munyoro event is happening again with us here. And he can also hold the country hostage at some level in the same way. What about if we have an election and these two coalitions that are there today, for example, one claims that the election has been rigged, and then they hold the country hostage. You know, a lot of people, again, who are against the song Ruto Must Go is a popular song now. If you go to Nairobi joints at midnight, people get drunk and then they start saying Ruto must go, Ruto must go. In Isili yesterday they were saying Ruto must go. In Kisii they were saying Ruto must go. It's a song, it's a popular song now with Kenyans, with Kenyan youth. You get me right? So there could be another person after 2027 that can hold the country hostage. Only because if elections cannot be resolved, even by courts, if we have an IBC, which we've had people shortlisted. First of all, will these people, everybody agree that this is the best IBC that we want to have? For example, what she's talking about national unity. By including Raila Odinga and having these talks between Raila Odinga and William Ruto, is that national unity?
Now, just a minute, just to cut you short.
Yes.
When we're talking about the unity between, the president and the former prime minister, it's not about the two of them. It's about Kenya, by the way. It's about Kenya.
A lot of Kenyans don't feel that.
It's about Kenya because you see, people have followers. We cannot wish Baba Raila Amolo Odinga.
No, but I mean,
because remember, he has a say. He has a long-standing history. When it comes to the president also, he has a say. He is the president of the country. And therefore what you're saying, what they're agreeing now, if the NADCO report is accepted, we are not saying that it is not in the constitution. You know, the NADCO report will come in. Just listen to me as a legislator as well. When it comes to legislation, bills are brought about by members of parliament. So those bills are the ones that affect what is in the constitution. Are you getting? So when it comes to the NADCO report, the bill is the one that will affect what is in the constitution. When it comes to the leader of the official opposition leader, it is a bill from parliament that will actually affect what is in the constitution. Because when it comes to legislation, it is done in the House. And any bill can come to effect, even just one section of the constitution.
When will Kenyans
a bill
be
can
involved?
come up,
If at all they can legislate.
Just let me make it clear. A bill can come up, for the purpose of ensuring that it's speaking on the issue of national unity. It's speaking on the issue of power sharing. And you see, it will be affecting what is in the constitution. So we are not saying that it has to be in the constitution, but the bill that comes out and it is accepted, it is assented to, it becomes law of the land. And it has to be adhered.
And I'm really trying to accommodate this. And I'm not trying to water down the broad-based arrangement. If at all anything, we really need to support the government to actualize, because if the government doesn't succeed, Kenyans don't succeed. But we are trying to interrogate the process itself. I'm looking at the Baba. Now he's working with the president. Just less than a year ago, he was really against the president. Now, all of a sudden, they are working together. And they are telling us it's not an alliance, it's a broad-based arrangement. It's not here or there because, one, it's not in the constitution. NADCO report is not in the constitution. And these things will require Kenyans to have a say in that.
You see, Ben, what I was saying, let me just listen to the what I was saying, and I will ask Senator, for example, implementation of the NADCO report currently, the way the situation is, do you think it can solve the problem that we have in Kenya? I think it's been overtaken by events a bit. When we needed the NADCO report, when the NADCO was published, it was going to solve our problems then. But as we speak now, the times have changed. We need another new NADCO report to address the current issue that we are dealing with. Because we're dealing with a completely different scenario. We're dealing with youth unemployment, which is a major thing. If you see, for example, you know, I didn't get to know that this thing was being signed at KCC the other day, right? Actually, I was in the village. And then when I was seeing social media, I saw a big crowd in front of KCC. The problem to me was that, okay, this one is going to bring political stability. But this huge crowd that is there on a Friday when people are working, that shows the level of unemployment in the country. When Kofi Annan, Kofi Annan's Agenda 4 was that in his investigation, when he went to the burnt forest and all this, he realized that you could give Kenyan youth 50 shillings to go and create skirmishes, to go and burn houses, just out of 50 shillings. So he said one of the things that we have to deal with as a country is, apart from land reforms, apart from institutional reforms, apart from election reforms that we brought in Kriegler to deal with, we've never touched Agenda 4. Agenda 4 was youth unemployment. Already we are dealing with a youth bulge that is coming out and is biting. Now, by that time when Kofi was there, the youth he was talking about were unskilled, uneducated youth, probably in the shanties. Currently, we are dealing with people who've been to a medical training school for 7 years, but they can't get jobs. Njue, I'm telling you for a fact, in this country today, if you're a parent, you pay for your daughter or your son rent because we don't have enough hostels. So you pay for them rent when they're studying at the university. I pay for my daughter rent at Parklands University out of Ngara. You know, after that, when they finish college, you continue paying for them rent, even if they stay now alone. And she's not in college now. Why? Because there are no jobs. Even after graduating from law school, even after graduating from medical school. So the problems that we are having in Kenya today, I don't think that whatever the 10 points agenda or the BBI or the structure of government can really solve the current problem. When Raila Odinga was being heckled in Kisii, some people claim that there are politicians in Kisii that mobilize them. I'm telling you, that is organic. It is something, it's a song. Yesterday, William Ruto was in Isli. He was being heckled. Ruto must go there. Wongo and what have you. Those guys were shouting. These guys have frustrations. We as old people and as parents and as lecturers like you, we've disappointed this generation. And we're dealing with this. There's a problem. This generation, they tried, and not our generation. At least in our time, a half of generation that we had probably were not educated. This one's now, everybody, almost 90% of people who are 20 now have gone through basic education, and we implemented the free primary education.
It's a good thing that you mentioned, because it's actually the fourth point in the agreement that was signed on Friday, economic investment in the youth. But allow me just to ask Senator, in regards to the trust deficit, and it's a good thing you've pointed out that not everyone has really welcomed this UDA-ODM pact, because we were not quite sure. They said it's not an alliance. Inclusivity in all public life, protecting and strengthening devolution, promoting and protecting the livelihoods of young people. Just as you're saying, Senator, do you believe that this 10-point agenda for economic investment in the youth is possible in this alliance? Well, there's a trust deficit. You see the president being heckled. We've seen the former prime minister being heckled. Less than a year ago, the prime minister could not, the former prime minister wouldn't want anything to do with the president. Now they just need to just tell Kenyans, wave the magic wand, Kenyans are okay with that. They have trust deficit as well. They really need these people to look Kenyans straight in the eye and tell us how this 10-point agenda will help fight corruption, stop wastages in public resources, stop abductions. We don't need a 10-point agenda to stop abductions. The police have their bosses, and if they're told no abductions, that's it. We don't need a 10-point agenda to respect the press freedom. We've seen as early or as latest as on Sunday, we saw where journalists were really mangled in Roysambu. We don't need a 10-point agenda for audit of the national debt. Mark you, the president, after the 2024 June protest, he said that in the next 90 days, he's going to ensure that we have an audit of the national debt and know exactly how it was used. Do we really need a 10-point agenda, Senator?
Now, what I want to say is that, yes, those are the 10 points. But what I want to say, that initially, the president had, his core people, even in the executive, advising him. He did not have many voices. But now in the broad-based arrangement, there are many voices that will come in to even advise. Now, I really want to think that the issue of whistleblowing, you know how powerful it can be, that when a decision is made and it looks like a decision that will not be very okay, or if it is repugnant with the law, then if there's a whistleblower, especially from the many voices that are coming from broad-based arrangement, that will help the president. Because initially, probably he has been having yes, yes, yes on his side. But right now, when the opposition joins the government, it is not joining the government to say yes to everything. It is joining the government so that they can now bring in many thoughts, many ideas that will help in addressing issues that affect Mwananchi. And when it comes to addressing those issues, it is not a matter of the issues will be addressed in a fortnight. No. When you go to hospital and you're sick, The signs will be there. The doctor will see the signs. And then after seeing the signs, the doctor will know what exactly is ailing you and then will treat the disease. In the same way, we have so many signs about, issues that have been going on in government. The youth have been going on strike. Lecturers even have been going on strike. When it comes to university students, they've been going on strike and all that. All those are signs and symptoms. But now in the broad-based arrangement, the people will be brought in. Probably they're going to bring in scholars. Probably they're going to bring in people who are really experienced. Probably they're going to bring in analysts who are going to help the government and say, no, I think this is the way we need to go. So I think even the president has come to his realization and felt that there's need to have people who can critique the government positively for the purpose of ensuring there's unity in Kenya, and the face of Kenya is actually seen. And therefore, what I want to say
still on the same of the face of Kenya, and as we can see, it's a UDA ODM pact. We don't have
Others.
We have like 66 political parties in the country.
Yes.
Why is it that if it's all we are talking about Article 1?
No,
You said Article 1,
when you're talking
subsection
about
2,
UDA
about
pact,
inclusivity.
inclusivity, yes.
Why is it that we have ODM and UDA alone? They
Okay,
should
now
include
what
everyone.
I want to say, my thinking from a school of thought,
Yes.
is that while we have the UDA pact and the ODM pact, remember ODM has a standing history of being about 20 years,
Yeah.
and it has never fallen apart, meaning that it is a strong party. And being a strong party, it garners a lot of followers.
Senator, I'll
Okay.
beg to differ with you there because just because
I
I
think I can help.
Yes.
To help the senator, because the senator is also a member of ODM and a strong member who benefited working with ODM, and he sees ODM as the savior also, which you can't remove it from her. The issue of this pact between UDA and ODM, this one is a global thing. That is how it happens. That 2 or 3 parties can always have a coalition to govern the ruling party, the ruling system. Sometimes, like for example, in Germany, we had a minority government, which, and you've seen whatever has been happening, for example, in the UK, we've always had sometimes the Labour taking over, and sometimes, even in South Africa, for example, the coalition that is governing South Africa now is DA and ANC and a few. That is allowed. That one happens in a parliamentary or even a presidential system, where we have many parties. In America, we only have 2 parties, for example. So it's either the Republicans or the Democrats. But you can always midterm. Even in Israel, I think in Israel, we've had how many prime ministers for the last 6 years? 3 times. But they don't have to go through an election. In a parliamentary system, it happens like that. Because when you govern, and sometimes you don't have numbers, you can form a coalition with a different political party so that it brings stability to you and you get the numbers to help you govern. And that is what has happened in South Africa. That is what has happened in Kenya. It's a coalition, which sometimes...
What do you mean is what has happened in Kenya? The pact that was signed on Friday was between 2 parties.
It was between 2 parties. It's for governing purposes. Because, the president lost a bigger bunch of parliament. He can't govern without parliament. If the people who were supporting Gachagua and some of these people who were in UDA decided to go against his policies, he needed to get other people, form a pact with somebody else, so that he's able to run government, and he has to, for example, now, this is the first budget that will be done for the broad-based government. I'm yet to see, we are coming, call me here again, we're going to discuss the finance bill. The last time we were discussing finance bill here.
Yes.
So in the next month...
You made some predictions.
Yes.
Which came true. Anyway,
yes. So we're
just
going
to cut the whole long story short.
The chairman for the first time of Budget and Appropriation Committee is going to be Sam Atandi, ODM. Then the finance minister, the treasury, is John Mbadi, treasury, ODM. So I want to see how that budget is done to caution and deal with some of these things. For example, get some money for SHA. Let SHA work. Number 2, let university funding work. Number 3, let this thing called the cost of living go down. Number 4, we even want, in case you can caution, so that we zero rate essential goods. For example, bread, and
All
Uga.
right.
Yes.
Thank you, Oscar, because we will be looking at some of these factors as well. But Senator, let's get away from the school of thought that this is a government of what? National unity or a broad-based one, because if at all, we only have CSs who are from the UDA and ODM. You have 60-something parties in the country from the last report, and only ODM was put into the
No, not
government.
factual. Not factual.
Not factual?
The CS for Information Technology is former government.
I totally understand where you're coming
when you're
from.
talking about
Yes.
CSs
It is because
from
these
UDA
people
and ODM,
also
it's
had
not
another
right.
handshake.
It's not right.
Yeah,
When
it's
you
true.
say that CSs are only from UDA and ODM, it's not right.
And Jubilee.
Just do the analysis and you'll find we also have CSs
And former
from other parties. Now, when it comes to broad-based, my thinking is that it is actually considering anyone who is ready to embrace embrace for the purpose of governance.
Like
But you've talked about
and for the purpose of unity.
You've talked just a few minutes ago. You talked about everyone is being factored in this government.
No, others have
Everyone
to
who
be
is
in
ready,
opposition.
like-minded people who are willing to be involved in governance of the country for the purpose of ensuring that the constitution is upheld.
How does the two principles, or how do the two principles work on the trust deficit that Kenyans are having? Because we can't just be having people heckle the president.
They can work on the
their
trust.
comments, even we have read newspapers. Not everyone is comfortable with this
I think for
arrangement, including, but not limited to, members of UDA and members of ODM.
If you want to work on the trust deficit that is happening, or whatever is happening, go back to the budget and caution on whatever. Let's have some social protection, and let things like health. You know, health is very vital in our country for everybody else. Let those mamambogas and those people who are in the villages go to medical facility and get services there. People feel so bad when they walk into a facility of government and they're told that SHA is not working. Get me right?
Not just to comment on
those
SHA.
ones are done, if those ones are done, for example, and if we caution, the cost of living is so high. And whatever, something like university funding, you know, Njue, 10 years ago, we used to do Harambes for our kids to go to school in the villages. Then that thing, because help was working properly, the university funding was working properly, somebody just had to go and apply for help, and it gets and pays the loans and what have you. If it stops working, you know, it messes up the poor. So education become a preserve of the rich. We had what how do you call it? This other training called level 2, the private university thing, where people who had money and got C+, who are not accommodated in the joint admission board, could go to university and pay for their school fees and learn. So we had that one.
All right.
But now, if we still go back again to the WhatsApps that somebody's sick, then we have to go to a WhatsApp and do Harambee. If somebody wants to go to university, then you want to go do Harambee. This is going to be bad. So those things should be cautioned. And how can you do them? Through the budget. Get some money. You know, the truth of the matter is, sometimes you have to play the devil's... what William Ruto and Kenya Kwanza promised: free education, free health maternity, free...
Oscar, if we go to the manifesto that had hundreds of promises, then...
When they got into government, after promising free, when they got inside government, they found debts.
Let me just comment.
All right. We will be looking at the debt because it's one of that.
Kindly allow me to comment on the issue of SHA. Yeah, because I have a real-time example that SHA may not be working for some people, but it is working for some people. It is working for some people, and I have evidence. Now, just listen. There could be issues that need to be fixed on SHA. I have a sister-in-law of mine who has cancer. We did not pay anything. She got all the services from Eldoret, whatever hospital, when she went there. So it actually worked for her. We were going to pay a lot of money, which we did not pay. For me, my fellow Don, I'm speaking also as a cancer survivor, that when I had cancer, I had to sell almost all my property to go to India to be treated. But right now, it is possible to access that treatment here. So what you're saying,
All right,
in some
Mheshimiwa,
areas,
when
SHA
it
is not
comes
working,
to SHA,
but the Ministry of Health
allow me
needs
to
ensure
interject.
it
Allow me
works.
to interject in terms of SHA, because this is something very emotive to Kenyans. SHA in most places has been noted not to work because of a number of factors. I can give you a practical example. My mother has high blood pressure and she has to take a number of meds every month. For the last 2 months, she's been given medicine for 12 days. I have to cater for the 18 days. Or what exactly does SHA want us to do with the 18 days? We go back to our pocket. Remember, a portion of my salary was raided so that I may be able to provide essential health services to Kenyans. My mother, myself. So I'm a practical example that SHA is not working. So if at all we have to have that inclusive government, let's not look at the inclusive government in terms of positions, because let's be very honest, every Kenyans know the moment that we decide to come up with the office of the Prime Minister, we know who will take that position. But as we speak, in my case, SHA is not working.
For my case, it worked.
Actually, the good
for my
thing
case,
is
it
that
worked.
I'm using the medical cover that was given here by KBC, of which I also have to pay for that as well.
So it means there are issues that need to be really fixed within the Ministry of Health or wherever for SHA to work. I think that is the direction to take, because you have a testimony, I have a testimony, you have a testimony, it didn't work. I have a testimony from my sister-in-law, it worked. That she has cancer, but she's being treated. We are not paying them lots of amounts of money that we needed to pay. For me as a cancer survivor, I sold my land, I sold so much, but Jomo Kenyatta University came in to help me, you know, that time when I had cancer and it paid for my bills. But common mwananchi who is not a lecturer at Jomo Kenyatta University or University of Nairobi, how will that common mwananchi be helped? The SHA needs to work. They need to fix the issues that are there.
All right, all right. You talked about the inclusive winner takes it all, and most government do that. We had elections in November in America, where Trump took over the reins of power. We didn't see the cronies of Biden into that government. It's not the only government, it's not the only election that we've had. We have countries that have opposition, and in our case, we have the minority side. But now the minority side came into government. We don't have an official opposition, we don't have an official minority for that matter.
Yes.
Everybody is in government. Yeah. Who will oversight? Mheshimiwa, you've been Mheshimiwa, we've been senator.
I think social media.
Who will oversight? And even if we came up with, I'm still on #1 full implementation of that.
Everybody is in government to critique positively. You see, it doesn't help when you just stand to watch a government collapsing, yet your ideas can work. So those who are in government, they're not in government because they're actually really, they're there to support and help the government fix the issues that are ailing Kenyans. So they're there as opposition.
I think we have an amalgamated thing that we've ended up with, because in politics, sometimes the structures, the way you organize them is not what you end up with. For example, when the pact was being signed, the person who read the pact on behalf of ODM was Secretary General Sifuna. Yeah, but you've seen Sifuna. I don't know if he's supporting government or is against government, for example. You see, his position, he has let his position know that I'm against this. And he's saying, even with Raila Odinga, Ruto, we're going to lose. You know, but he's a guy who was reading this one. So whoever is in government or whoever, I support.
But you know, unfortunately, Sifuna is not around. And you know, on Monday,
I supported, and I still support the arrangement that we had that ended up with the broad-based government because of where we were. Because my question was, if we go on with this revolution the way it is, you get it, what's next? And those young boys, some of them were called on TV like us, and they were asked, what's next after this one?
We really need to take
and even the one who was really strong, he now joined government.
Let's just take a quick break. We'll be right back. Many thanks indeed for joining us on KBC News Check. We are looking at the state of governance in the country and analysis of the broad-based approach in leadership. We are interrogating, we are not castigating, we are only interrogating some of the issues that have been raised. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to KBC News Check, and many thanks indeed for keeping us company. And as just said, just enumerate some of the things we are focusing our lenses on is that the president's tour in Nairobi County, a week-long tour. We are also looking at a number of items and also the full implementation of the NADCO report as one of the analysis of broad-based approach in leadership. And allow me to just go through the 10 pointers that the two principals signed on Friday at the KICC, where they pledged to fully implement the NADCO report. And in the NADCO report, we have the Office of the Leader of the Official Opposition and 2 deputies. We also envision the Office of the Prime Minister and observance to the 2/3 gender rule. That's just some of the, if you remember, Omondi, if I may ask, was it the NADCO had 9 points, right?
No,
not 10.
The
NADCO report.
The BBI had 9 points.
No, I'm talking about the NADCO,
yeah.
not the BBI.
Yes.
Among also others that you'll be looking at is inclusivity in all public life, protecting and strengthening devolution. I'm quite sure, Senator, you have something to say in regards to that. Promoting and protecting the livelihoods of young people, that it's a matter of jobs and economic investment in our youths. Leadership and integrity, right to peacefully assemble and protest is another pact that UDA and ODM signed on Friday. We'll also be looking at the implementation on how the 10 points is just so cagey. We don't know how they're going to be implemented in phases, how long will it take. For example, the full implementation on the NADCO report is more or less a whole topic on its own, because we have seen 2/3 gender rule has not been observed. And bringing up the Office of the Official Opposition, who will be there?
Full implementation of NADCO report is a referendum.
We will be there.
Yes.
If at all we got to come up with the Office of the Official Opposition, just like Mheshimiwa said that we do not have, then we'll have to go back to Kenyans. And that is why I was talking about the trust deficit. You see, a number of Kenyans are not comfortable in the way government is handling things, and also in the way that the pact was signed. I think that is why we saw in Kisii that a number of youths were not quite happy.
You know, I told you one thing, that when we have a national dialogue, then the NADCO report was supposed to be a national dialogue. A national dialogue is like whatever Yashpal guy had at Bomas, where we had people with disability represented, women group of Wajir was represented, the youth group of Mandera and Siaya were represented, the church of Mageta Island was represented there in person. So we had almost more than 1,000 delegates in that conference. That is called a national dialogue. But when we had 10 people, 5 from different political parties at that particular time, sitting down and coming up with, let's get something like the CDF for senators, and let's get MCAs to get some funding also, MCAs, because they're going to pass this thing. It is a useless document, to be honest with you, because it was not brought out of a national dialogue. Whatever we had with the Yashpal guy, over 1,000 delegates, brought us a new constitution, and we came up with a robust document that everybody was involved. But this was a bit elitist, and this one can never carry, because at the end of the day, what is NADCO report? NADCO report was created to bring the issue, to deal with the issue of a debt crisis. One of the things that I expected to get from the national NADCO report, to deal with debt, with the cost of living. What do we need to do? Austerity measures. We don't need these 22 ministries running at the same time. We don't need the president to have almost 1,001 advisors.
But Omondi, from what we've heard and what we've seen in the 10-point agenda, we haven't heard of any plans
to do austerity measures.
Exactly.
We need, because
Any
we
plans
have
for?
For austerity measures, maybe cutting down the number of CSEs, cutting down the number of PSEs, cutting down the number. We've seen some of the corporation collapse, but that is not enough.
We need to have serious austerity measures so that at the end of the day, we take money where, you know, why SHA is not working, one of the reasons why SHA is not working, you know, the private medical practitioners pulled out of SHA because they had big pending bills, around 4 billion pending bills of NHIF. So they're saying, pay us NHIF pending bills so that we join SHA. But you can't join SHA if you've not even paid those pending bills. We need this money.
All right.
And that's why we are saying the issues of healthcare and the SHA need to be fixed. As long as they're not fixed, then it will not work.
I totally concur.
Yeah. So it has to be fixed. They have to get into conversation with the NHIF, and if there are any pending bills, let the bills be paid.
All right.
So that the country can move forward.
For example,
especially when it comes to issues of health. Remember, Kenya is a signatory. It actually signed that, internationally, it was going to support healthcare. And therefore, there's need for SHA to work. There's no otherwise.
All right. And I think we've been swallowed by the NADCO report as well. But some of these things, to be very honest, and Kenyans question this, they don't need any pact signed. More or less, protect sovereignty of the people, stop abductions, respect the Constitution and rule of law, and respect press freedom. Mheshimiwa, do we need an agreement for that? Another thing, wastage of public resources, leadership, integrity, and end of opulence. That is chapter 6 of the Constitution. All right, protect and strengthen devolution. That is also in the Constitution.
You know, we don't have...
When it comes to devolution, actually devolution has to be protected and strengthened. That one I agree. Because we've come from very far when it comes to issues of development. Some years ago, you'd find that there's some places that were not accessible in Mashinani. Yeah? And I remember during my time when I was very young, even to reach our home, it was very difficult. You'd wait for a matatu, you'd not even find it, especially during the rainy season. Matatus would not even, the roads were not accessible. Even bicycles that time were not accessible. But because of devolution, we find that there's quite a number of roads that have been made in Mashinani. And when it comes to budget allocation, the budget allocation that is taken to the county is supposed to actually ensure that devolution works and development projects are actually taken care of and that Mwananchi is comfortable.
Right,
that one I support that devolution.
I totally concur that we really need to strengthen
that,
devolution.
It needs to be enshrined in the Constitution. You see, like the NADCO report, the NADCO report, the way it is stating that CDF needs to be enshrined in the Constitution, NAF needs to be enshrined in the Constitution. I agree with that because one thing, when members of parliament go to Mashinani and they're doing the activities, they tell Kenyans it is like we are doing this, we are doing this. But this is taxpayers' money. When it comes to NAF, it is taxpayers' money. When it comes to CDF, so one actually needs to know that this is their right.
Why would members of parliament...
This is their right.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to just read comments from Kenyans. And apologies, I forgot to reintroduce you. We have Oscar Omondi, who is a political scientist and also a lecturer at the university. And also we have Dr. Gertrude Musuruve, who is a former nominated senator and also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Later on, very soon we'll be joined by Dr. Churchill Saoke, who is also a leadership and governance expert and also a lecturer at JKUAT. Let's hear what Kenyans have to say. Festus Kipkemoi, they united themselves to loot poor people. Chemtani Ben, nothing will benefit citizen. We've seen previous coalition which result in negative impact. It can't reduce prices, abduction, corruption, unemployment, etc. We are only watching. And still on the same, maybe you can note there, Senator, in regards to what the president said, in regards to, he called it a mongrel, the handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. He did not believe that. Not only here in Kenya, even in international media, he talked about that. How comes that the loser always forms part of government? We will get into that. Raila is currently more powerful than the president. If there was anything he ever wanted to do as president, now he can do. He can even disburse the 6,000 monthly stipends he promised his followers. No big deal about it. It's all about the two principles. One of the greatest responsibility of a good parent is protect their children from, it's an inflammatory that, but as I mentioned, President William Ruto is currently in his second day of his week-long tour of the city. And Ashim has been following up on that, and he now joins us to give us a feel of what is happening in Mathare. Good morning. Good morning, Hashim, and kindly bring us up to speed with what is happening in the president itinerary.
Well, after a successful day yesterday in Nairobi County, the president was able to visit Kamkunji constituency. Today, it is all about Mathare constituency, where we're currently at an affordable housing project site, where the president will be groundbreaking this particular site. You do know this is one of the projects that is being headed by the Ministry of Lands and Housing, as well as the executive arm of the government, to ensure that people get adequate and as well as affordable housing in various parts of the country. Also, the president will be visiting various areas in this particular area, namely known as Kosovo. But the president, after finishing with a TVET institution, including a mixed secondary school here in Mathare, he'll be coming to this particular site. It will be a site that will see a groundbreaking of the affordable housing project in Mathare 02. And of course, just to tell us an overview of what we should be expecting on how this particular area will be looking like 2 years from now in terms of affordable housing in this particular area, is none other than Adeline Mbone, who is an architect. She'll just be telling us how many houses are expected to be built in this particular area and how will it help the people in Mathare constituency. Adeline, thank you for joining us on KBC Channel 1. Maybe just tell us, why did you choose this particular area and how many houses do you see building in this particular area?
Okay, so Mathare is very ideal for the social housing, considering its location. One, it's within the Mathare constituency, and if you look around, we can see the informal settlement around, so definitely that is a #1 target unit. We are providing 2,700 units within these 7 acres parcel of land, and they're the #1 priority, like I've said, and it's ideal because it's close to the 3 CBDs, that is the Eastlands, the Nairobi, and also Westlands. So it's basically on a walking distance from this place. A person can be able to own a home within this area. It's neighboring the Muthaiga neighborhood. So for Mama Mboga, it will be a very ideal place for her to be able to own a home. So that's #1. The transport corridor is just nearby, so it's easily accessible to public transport. So for me, I look at it as the most ideal place for the social housing. It's going to change the facade of how this place looks like, and even that, considering that now things like sewer will be sorted, this menace that we're seeing around will be able now to be redirected to the right channel. We're going to have a clean environment.
Mm-hmm. And given that you do know the government has vowed to create more housing project, so how many youths are you expecting to hire for this particular project?
So during the construction process, we're envisioning to hire a minimum of 2,500 youths, both in terms of providing labor on the site. Also, there's 30% which has been ring-fenced for the Juakali. By Juakali, I mean providing things like windows, doors, the accessories for the windows and doors as well. So it really is an exciting program, and we envision it to be able to benefit Mwananchi so that every day they have something to put on the table.
And of course, in terms of benefiting the community around here, given that you do know the main target is to ensure people are living in an adequate and an affordable housing project, at the end of the day that is very clean. So in terms of a community welcoming this project, how have they received it?
The community are very receptive. They've embraced the program. Some of them, they're even making inquiries, looking very excited to be able to own a unit. You can even hear them telling us, I want this unit. What is the process of joining? We tell them, go to Bomayango, fill in your details. The process is very, very straightforward. It's broken down from registration to you making the down payment, and slowly by slowly starting acquiring a unit. Now that is dependent on the type of unit that you have. We have the 1 room, we have a 2-room, and you have a 3-room, catering for all broad spectrum of the people living within the area.
Thank you so much. And of course, that is Adeline Mbone just telling us a brief update on how this particular area will be looking like down the years, Troy. Now, you do know the itinerary of the president has already kick-started. He is currently launching a construction of an 800-bed dormitory at St. Teresa Secondary School, Mathare constituency. We surpassed there a little bit a while ago, and residents had converged there to just listen to what the head of state had to say. And of course, from that particular venue, he'll be going to break ground on the construction of 12 classrooms in Mbatini Primary School in Mathare constituency. Shortly afterwards, entering into the Kosovo area, which the events are, of course, in one particular road. They're very close to each other. He'll be inspecting the construction of a classroom at Mathare Mixed Secondary School here in Mathare constituency. Then afterwards, he'll be moving to the tertiary institutions, breaking ground on the construction of a TVET college in Mathare. And then afterwards, he'll launch the last mile electricity connectivity project in Mathare. And finally, he will be here at this affordable housing project site. Well, he'll also break ground on the construction of the Mathare affordable housing project. And then afterwards, he'll move over to Ruaraka constituency, where he'll inspect the construction of the Mathare modern gateway market. Also launch the construction of classrooms at TJ Kajwang's Mathare North Secondary School in Ruaraka. And then commission the Deputy County Commissioner's office in Mathare North Ruaraka constituency. And of course, as of yesterday, given that that was the president that was sent in Kamkuji, this particular round, the president will hold a public rally at Car Wash on the Thika Road, Roysambu constituency. You do know some of the keynotes that the president yesterday gave is, of course, uplifting the lives of many Kenyans, not just through the various programs that the government is undertaking, including the affordable housing projects, the various markets that are being built across the country, also some of the road constructions. The president said that that should not be taken granted due to the pact that they created with the ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga, which has exacerbated the rate of development in various parts of the country. The president clearly stating that tribalism is a thing of the past and Kenyans need to come closer so that they can at least see growth in terms of development and economic wise. Of course, we do know he's being flanked by a number of leaders, not just cabinet secretaries, but a number of leaders here from the capital, both from the UDA and ODM, of course, following that particular pact that was signed at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. So Ben Troy will be informing you in just a few. As and when the president arrives, he'll be addressing people even here at the affordable housing project. As and when the president starts speaking, we'll be taking you live. So back to you, Troy.
Abdiaziz Hashim there on the president's trail, where we are expecting the president to be where Abdi is standing a few moments from now, and we'll be crossing over as soon as the president gets there. Remember, it's the affordable housing project, and as Abdi has talked to the lady and gentleman, there is that a number of houses will be put up there, and they will help to decongest even the Mathare slum, and of course the affordable housing project. Just in case you joined us, we are having a candid conversation here on KBC News Check. We have two gentlemen and a lady. Yes, two gentlemen and a lady. Now we are also joined by Dr. Churchill Saoke, who is a leadership and governance expert and also a lecturer or university don at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. And before we go back to the conversation, and before we also crossed over to Mathare, I was having a look at what Kenyans have had to say on our social media spaces in regards to the discussion that we are having. Some are quite stinging, and you allow me to skip them. There are some people, Ichingwa Obed Aldeva says tuko pamoja. He says that he's more content with the new arrangement. Sama si uchawi ni maombi, ngumi ni mbwegze, tupatani 2032 deal sealed. There's also somebody who is also commending that. But some of them are quite stinging. Hii siasa usiweke kwa roho. That's Matthew Kipchumba. There are quite a number. It's for convenience. Would my opinion matter really? But allow me to rope in my panel of experts. And before I rope in Dr. Churchill Saoke, Mheshimiwa, we are also talking about strengthening devolution. The Senate has been tasked with that, where you served. And what do you believe needs to be done by the two principals or the two gentlemen who signed the pact, that is the president and the former premier, to strengthen devolution? Because it is something that they have talked about. We have seen governors always, we have cash crunch, we need a bigger percentage, delay in disbursement of funds. These are some of the challenges that are affecting devolution. What more can be done to ensure that, as they said, protect and strengthen devolution? They assist the country in doing that.
Thank you, Jue. My thinking is that when it comes to strengthening devolution, the Senate and the National Assembly needs to ensure that they actually actualize what the two party leaders are talking about, you know, what Baba and Raila are talking, Baba and the president are talking about, that funds are set aside for the purpose of increasing money that are going to the counties. But again, even if monies are going to the counties, they need to have a mechanism of ensuring that the money is used prudently, so that the senators themselves are able to oversight what governors are doing in the counties, because sometimes money is taken to the counties and it is not used in a prudent way. So they need to oversight the money that is taken to the government. But again, the Senate has no money allocated for oversight. I can tell you, Njue, I was there from a practical perspective. I was a senator. I was representing persons with disabilities. I had zero funds to oversight anything that was happening in the county to do with PWD, to do with women. So it is like I would really try to look for my own money to go to Bashinan. But what I'm saying is that there's need for this money to be enshrined in, in the Constitution, so that people know that it is a right to get services. CDF money is a right for them. Roads is a right to them. Accessibility is a right to them. Hospitals in Mashinani should be a right to them, because money is taken. And even governors need to be brought to account. They need to be actually, they need to be summoned by, by the Senate to really demonstrate that they're using the money prudently, and even account for how they have been using the money. Because when it comes to, devolution actually has worked for the benefit of this country. Because without devolution, if we take ourselves maybe where we were 15 years ago, the counties were really in poor conditions. But again, all governors need to really explain how they're using the money in terms of healthcare, in terms of Article 43 of the Constitution. You know, Article 43 of the Constitution addresses the needs of Kenyans. We are talking of issues of healthcare. We are talking of issues of housing. We are talking of issues of sanitation, which are all rights. So they have to really ensure, and they have to demonstrate even to Parliament, that they are actually meeting the needs of Wananchi according to Article 43 of the Constitution, meaning that we should not run away from the Constitution. We need to really quote the Constitution and speak to the issues that the Constitution is talking about, because the Constitution is the law of the land. And if there are issues that need, legislation to be done in order for the Constitution to be effected, then those issues should be brought to the National Assembly so that they are worked on. They can also be taken to the Legislative House in county assemblies so that they are worked on and they become bills. Because once an issue is a bill, then it has to be adhered to. And if you do not adhere to a bill, then there are sanctions. So I think that is the direction that needs to be taken.
Now,
and the two principles have to be Hawkeye.
For avoidance of doubt, you mean an act, not a bill?
I have been?
You mean an act, not a bill. It has to be adhered to.
Yes, when it comes to laws,
yes,
they become, they become laws of the land. I'm talking about a bill. I'm talking of bills. There are bills that come to the Parliament. A bill can, a senator
I think
or a member of Parliament can come up with a bill.
Because the act is the law itself, but the bill is just more recommendations of what will later on be passed.
So the bill is the one that affects the Constitution. It is the bill that affects.
It's an act.
An act of Parliament.
Yes.
Yeah, an act of Parliament becomes a bill, which affects the Constitution.
A bill becomes an act.
A bill becomes an act, yeah? But now, when it has been legislated on, it now takes effect, and it ensures that the Constitution becomes effective.
All right. Let's rope in Dr. Churchill Saoke as well. Karibu sana, Doc.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ben. Yeah, indeed.
We are looking at the analysis of the broad-based approach that we saw on Friday, and I'm quite sure you are also glued to your screen.
Yes.
And the 10-point agenda, we've listed some of them, and I'm quite sure my director up there can maybe just flash them in regards to what the two gentlemen talked about. Just touch 2 or 3: full implementation of the NADCO report, inclusivity in budgetary allocation, promotion and strengthening of devolution, economic investment in the youth. And this is more or less another handshake, just as we can see and as we saw. And Mheshimiwa started by saying that, yes, indeed, we should all be coming together. And nobody disputes that. But we are always coming together after an election. At least there have been some delays on this one, but it's still a handshake. How does it speak of our democracy where the runners-up always finds his way on the podium with the winner.
Thanks, Ben, for having me here, and greetings to our viewers. I think what I will say, democracy is really a work in progress, and each and every day, societies are always advancing towards the betterment of their governance systems. Mm-hmm. And as a democratic country, when you look at the journey that we have taken right from the time of the one-party state up to date, we have always been trying to move towards freedoms in the way we exercise our democratic right. And I think it really speaks into the inherent inner being of human beings, of just wanting better ways to be governed. So I think objectively, it might be important for us to see it as opportunity to really interrogate our governance systems and the structures of our governance, and see what can we be able to change, like what Mheshimiwa is mentioning. How can we use this kind of unification of leaders? Because it is leaders who really champion some of these things. How can we use this unity of purpose of leaders to champion newer paths of betterment of our democracy and our governance systems? And the devolution, as you have mentioned, it's really the Kenya today and the Kenya tomorrow. And I think that one of the ways, for example, that this could be useful is the betterment of oversight, objectivity in the oversight of governance, for example, where we do not look at governance in the lenses of the political parties that they come from and we victimize them on that basis, but we look at them on the basis of the Constitution and on the lenses of the scorecard that they provide in terms of their duties to the people. And in addition to that, it's an opportunity for us also to interrogate, when we look at the services that were devolved, to what extent are we achieving the aspirations of the founders of our Constitution in terms of devolving our functions down there? And if it is not working properly, to what extent can we do it? Is it maybe another opportunity, for example, for Kenya to reconsider and find ways of strengthening these services much more? Is it an opportunity perhaps to consider having governments, the national government, ceding maybe even some of the parastotals to the counties, or to what kind of? So for me, I think it's a time for us to really deeply interrogate our systems of government and see how best we can look at it. The only challenge that exists is that if we are not careful, we risk looking at this, and even the leaders themselves looking at this in the lenses of the next election. And of course, it's something that they cannot avoid. But the moment that comes in, then we lose the bigger picture and see it from the perspective of who are the beneficiaries now, who are the beneficiaries into the next election. And then in the long run, factions begin to emerge and other parts of the country begins to feel like they're out of. So yes, I think it's, and I think it's also even a challenge to the president and the former prime minister to see that, yes, they have come together, but to what extent is this coming together unifying the entire country? So it's a challenge that they also must sit down and really deeply interrogate, so that you don't end up having again going with one section and leaving another section that is feeling that, we are completely out of this.
And you wanted to add something?
No, what I'm just saying is that from what Tauka is talking about, you see, the Ruto must go chorus now in March of 2025. The Ruto must go chorus now is unnecessary disruption. It's unnecessary disruption.
Unnecessary?
Unnecessary disruption. Because it's only going to disrupt whatever vulnerable situation that we're already in. We are in a serious economic problem. Shops are closing downtown because of the economic problem. Get me right? And now, even implementation of whatever, even the policies that we have here, I wish that if somebody can talk to the leadership, for example, the Wamunyoros of this world and William Ruto, that come down off those roofs of those vehicles. Step down, relax. Let us do something. And what I told you, one of the solutions to our problems is to get money, for example, to the health. We need to have serious austerity measures. If we have austerity measures and release a bit of the pay slips, because the pay slips are tied to some of these things. You know, we don't have to do all the infrastructure that we wanted to do now. We don't have to do all the roads today because our health is ailing. So we can stop other projects, get to do other projects, and make sure that we stabilize issues to do with the youth, the Juakali sector, issues to do with, for example, payment of help of some of these people who have gotten jobs. Like, hold it down for some times until we get back to where we were yesterday. Then we have vendors, people who are selling eggs on the streets. Let's get some money even for them to caution the situations.
And Oscar, speaking of austerity measures and looking at the implementation of the NADCO report that will create the Office of the Prime Minister, the Office of the Official Leader of Opposition, and 2 deputies. Are we still on the austerity measures?
I told you that NADCO was important for stability and cautioning when people wanted servers opened then. I don't think if people who wanted
now,
the servers to be opened still want them to be opened.
I think that's under the bridge.
Yes, but NADCO was then. But again, I've told you, when these people moved to go and do a national dialogue, it was based, why? Because the mandamanos were going on downtown. And what were people? It was Unga revolution. It was cost of living was high. The prices of products, of essential products. That's what I've told you. We've started a process of doing the budget. The budget statement policy they're working now on it, and we have new committees to deal with that one now.
Actually,
I really want to see how this is going to caution the people, the pay slips, and even the people who are surviving on less than $1. How can we caution them so that we get back? But if we put the country into a constant political high tones of politics, at the end of the day, things are not working.
Just allow me to comment on the NADCO report, and I want to comment on its relevance. Because when you look at all the elections that have been there in Kenya, 2007, whichever elections, after the elections, that is when issues are, skirmishes have been there. Many issues have come up, people have been displaced and all that. But the ailing issue is usually the winner takes it all. The minute the winner takes it all, just a second, allow me to clarify this.
But many countries are like that. The winner takes it all, and then there's
allow me to clarify that, that when it comes to the NADCO report, it wants to heal that. It wants to close that gap so that everyone is represented according to Article 1 of the Constitution. And I even mentioned,
But it's the same Constitution which has the minority and the majority.
Once we have many voices, then we'll have ideas coming from different voices to address the issues or to give suggestions on issues that are ailing our country, on solutions that can work. I think we should not also wish away the issue of peace.
The same Constitution, yes, I totally understand, and we all should be one thing as Kenyans, but the same Constitution, you're saying that the issue of winner takes it all, that is how the Constitution is. And it's not that the only Constitution that is a winner takes it all. We have the opposition in, I think, most of the countries of the world.
Before she responds to even that one, what about 202? When we had a good election, we got the winner and we got the loser, and the winner took it all, and there was peace in 202. It is because the election was done.
Even 2013.
One of the things
there was no handshake in 2013.
One of the things that I would like to just to delve into is when an election is held and a government is elected in our constitution, how long should the government stay in power?
5 years.
5 years as our constitution.
Yeah.
So it means that if you are not okay with that government, you have options. What are the options?
You wait for 5 years, impeachment.
That's 1. 2, impeachment. 3, you find out to overthrow that government. Now, are those So these are the options that somebody who loses will have on the table, right? The other option is waiting for 2027. Does that mean that you sit back and, because there are also people behind you who are following you, how do you deal with them? There is already a government. So I think that the way we view how governments work with the opposition should also change. Because the reason we elect government so that the government is able to give its mandate in 5 years. And so if you are a contender in that election and you have lost, it is also you also have a leadership responsibility of how do you ensure that the government that has been elected also delivers for even the people who believed in you.
And the checks and balances.
So the checks and balances is just one of them. And I think this is now where we always try to focus more. The checks balances is just one of them. The other one is, how do you look at the government systems and see how the government systems can also help your people? Other than just the checks and balances. And in many occasions, I think we have been, and I understand because of the kind of democracy we have had over the years, that the person who loses must always be antagonistic to the government. And if you don't become antagonistic, then you are playing ball with government. The danger with that is, and looking at history, you end up realizing that the person who is antagonistic to the government, the people who follow him end up being on the wrong side of government services. So I think that it is also important for us to look at just the objectivity from a leadership perspective, that yes, the checks and balances are important in the opposing camps, but also the fact that there are people all these camps are leading that needs to get services from the same government that is being led by the person who has won. And so the two leaders who were contending must not necessarily not see eye to eye. They have to find a way of seeing eye to eye for the greater good of the country.
And Joy, I think I just agree with him. I just agree with him that in an election there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser. But when the elections are over, now the winner and the loser need to have a conversation so that they see the country forward. Because when it comes to an election, even losers have large numbers.
I totally concur, but having a prime minister
even the president has large numbers.
That's a big
but
one.
What I'm saying, when it comes to decision making, when it comes to issues of policy, when it comes to issues of governance, or the face of Kenya has to be seen, so that the issue of, you voted for me, you didn't vote for me, should not be there, because the government is supposed to serve all Kenyans. And therefore, in serving all Kenyans, then the face of Kenya has to be seen.
I totally concur.
The problem
And that's why a conversation is important, even for the losing side and the winning side. And so that when
our
it
issue
comes
has been,
to
the issue with Kenyans and why they
critique.
have an issue is because this has been happening for 5 times now, And Kenyans are, okay, for example, who would take the mantle of office of the official opposition leader?
Njue, if you ask me, I can say impartially.
Kenyans might
as
not
a
answer
scholar,
but they will be able to answer who will become the next prime minister of the Kenya.
No, I can tell you objectively that this is something, if it is enshrined in the constitution, anybody has a fair chance of being the official leader of opposition, the whatever prime cabinet secretary, or does that. Anyone, because it will be in the constitution.
They are not in the constitution. The position that you're mentioning
so
of prime cabinet secretary
chance.
was ruled out by the court. It's not constitutional and still will have that. But anyway, we are also looking at one of the things they said was what to empower and strengthen the constitution, constitutionalism and rule of law. But unfortunately, we are not following some. Let's go back to the House committees. I had a very hard time last evening looking for MPs because they now have new leadership in the House. How does the change of House leadership in some of the committees that we have seen going to actualize or change the workings of Parliament, including actualizing these 10 agendas as the two principles signed?
You see, for example...
first of all, hear from Senator.
Just to comment, and of course I stand guided and corrected, but one thing I know is that when it comes to the government working, it cannot work alone. And therefore, when it comes to working, it needs the legislative wing. It needs, the Senate. It needs also the National Assembly. And therefore, what you're saying is that if they are to help the government, then when it comes to leadership, there have to be people or legislators who are like-minded, that we want to see how the government works for the purpose of service delivery and ensuring that things work out. And one danger of having in leadership people opposing the current government always is that the government cannot do anything. It will always be opposition. But what we're saying, even in leadership, when we have leaders who are like-minded and are ready to critique positively for the service, for the purpose of service delivery, for me, I think that is a win-win situation, because at the end of the day, legislators are there to represent people, and constitutionally, they need to air the issues of people so that Article 43 of the Constitution is actually met when it comes to socio-economic rights of Kenyans. So my thinking is that it is well in order.
Omondi, you wanted to add something?
The instability, other jurisdiction, what happens? The change in political system does not change the civil service. The civil service continues, and including the line ministries, directors. But in Kenya, you find that if William Ruto wakes up in the morning and goes to meet former President Uhuru Kenyatta, then the following day, the 3 cabinet secretaries that are appointed who are Uhuru guys, right? And then when he goes to meet Raila, then he appoints another 2 or 3 who are Raila guys. And now, I don't think if this, I'm not sure if Ruto and Uhuru are seeing eye to eye after the AU thing. So I don't know if Uhuru's guys in cabinet are going to lose their positions again. So you see, when we have such a system, it's a system that we don't even know what's going to happen next week. Right? Now again, the people who are supporting Gachagua, I think they've lost their seats, their chair positions in Parliament. What about if after losing tomorrow, then one day Wamunyoro goes to State House to see William Ruto, then again they're returned. If we have such a system, we will never be stable. And I always give an example as the developed world, America and Africa. I always see the developed world as a big father to a small child who is unstable and they're trying to walk. The father can do big steps because he's stable. But the son whom he's holding cannot do the same steps. That's why we end up having projects like, for example, when we were laying those cables to put telephones, you remember we had some telephone booths that started to use cards. They were never used because before we started using them, the mobile phone technology came in. But you see, those other governments have something called futuristic ideas that in the future, in the next 20 years, what are going to happen? You get me right? So in Kenya, the problem of that stability becomes a problem because it's about personality cultures. It's personality because events of the day dictate who becomes what, when, and how. So even in Parliament, whatever committees are going to be created, they're going to be created based on the pact that we have today. But this pact, how long will it last? We don't know. We don't know. So you see, tomorrow you will see Raila Odinga with somebody called Gachagua or somebody called Uhuru Kenyatta somewhere, and then like, what the hell are they meeting again? And now it jeopardizes the positions of these people who've earned their positions based on that arrangement.
All right.
So it's never merit. It's something that is personality, and we create, and so has to come with people. The worst part of it, again, the worst part of it, even if you give Baba Raila Odinga a chance, or if you give Uhuru Kenyatta a chance, they will appoint their friends who are the same people. Whom would Raila appoint apart from Joho and Oparanya? Yes.
We are talking about a broad-based...
I'm asking, whom will Uhuru appoint apart from the former governor and Mutahi Kagwe? You know, it's the same guys. So it's an elite that keeps on just changing, but they're the same guys. Wetangula is foreign minister, then Wetangula becomes speaker, then from the speaker, then Wetangula becomes...
All right. And because of interest of time, allow me to ask this one question. We are looking at a 4.2 trillion budget that we've never hit those numbers. The last two have been objected by Kenyans. We have the Sufuria Revolution in 2023, and then 2024, the Gen Z awoke the nation. How can the government, and especially now that we have UDA and ODM working together, ensure that from 3 trillion to 4 trillion does not hurt Kenyans' pockets? Because we wouldn't want the incidents that we had in June of 2024.
I think ensure that the budget focuses on areas that stimulate the economic growth centers of the country. It creates environment for businesses, because I think one of the pain points that many Kenyans have cried for is the fact that the businesses have been feeling the heat of the tax and things like that, and also even on the pay slip. So I think as they consider generating resources, they need to rethink the pay slips. They also need to rethink on overtaxing the businesses, because the more you have too much on the businesses, then people begin to see that there is no value in having businesses locally, and they might want to shift. And also even that affects even foreign direct investment. They might need to have fiscal policies that tend towards attracting investors from outside, because then that pulls resources into the country. So there should be a very proactive and deliberate attempt by government to attract foreign direct investments into the country in various sectors that will result into inflow of capital. It will result into the growth of jobs, and by extension also have a replica effect in making those jobs that are created and people getting jobs, and the jobs that are created resulting into those people also creating their own entrepreneurial ventures that then have a multiplier effect.
All right, I have been given 1 minute by my director. I want to split 30 seconds for your closing statements, beginning with you, Mheshimiwa. Kindly, 30 seconds.
I want to Kenyans, I want to colleagues. From my view, I want to say that our leaders need conversations, and Kenyans need to fix Kenya. It is possible for us to actually address the issues that are ailing Kenyans, but we will need a united Kenya. Okay. We cannot afford to break our country.
Okay. Omondi?
My point is that we need to go Reaganomics. Reaganomics is that President Ronald Reagan of America came up with policies that cutting down of taxes actually generates more revenue. We need more revenue. But what he did, he cut down on taxes so that people, even during COVID time, when we cut down on taxes, for example, money transfer is very expensive. Okay. If you cut down on taxes, it actually generates more revenue, and we need that revenue to run the country. So
all right. Churchill, in 10 seconds, kindly.
Yeah, I think I've been advocating for the unity of the country, and anything that advances that I will always support, including a constitutional change that thinks through the holding of presidencies across, even we need to think of even rotation of presidency moving onwards.
All right. Dr. Churchill Saoke, a leadership and governance expert and also a university don. Next to him is Dr. Gertrude Musuruve, who has been a former nominated senator and also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. And next to her, we have Oscar Omondi, who is a political analyst and also a lecturer, Don. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on News Check. Of course, we are continuing to sample some of your responses on our viewpoint question, where we were asking you to just share your views in regards to the UDA-ODM pact. My name is Bentro Njue. Brian Moraru has been our sign language interpreter for this program. I'm now giving the baton to the Swahili desk for Kuruzi Mashinani and Tamrini. Have a good afternoon.